a little bit about Small World Labs. So Small World Labs provides Small World Labs community, a platform that helps organizations engage, connect, mobilize, and collaborate with their members and supporters in new ways. And we specialize in helping nonprofits and associations, and have tailored our platform to meet some of the needs that are specific to that industry. Our platform is open, making it easy to integrate with your existing website, CRM, or other database systems. And we're well profiled as a market leader in the space. Small World Labs is the only organization that specializes in the nonprofit and association market to be profiled by some of the leading analyst firms and publications that you can see at the bottom. Small World Labs Community, which is the platform that Relay Nation is based on, has a very comprehensive set of features and capabilities to help create purpose-driven communities that are tailored to each organization's specific needs and the needs of their top supporters. And these include not only foundational community building blocks like member profiles, discussion forums, directories, and resources, but also innovative engagement building tools like automated action workflow, leaderboards, opportunity matching and recommendations, document collaboration, integrated social sharing, and many other items. And providing our platform with the tools needed to be able to create an online experience that's specific to each project, program, and organization, as well as engaging to each target audience. And you'll get a chance today to see one example of that Joe's going to walk us through. Our platform is designed to work with and extend the platforms that your organization is already using. So we have a full web services-based API that's publicly available and accessible at smallworldlabs.com/API. And in addition to that open API, you can also see just some of the organizations and platforms that Small World Labs community has already been integrated with. And all of this, the platform capabilities, the seamless integration with existing systems, is designed to create an online environment that provides scalable options to be able to attract new supporters and members and effectively move them up the engagement pyramid, helping your organization develop a stronger set of contributors, owners, and leaders. And that engagement building spans across different audience and program sets, from communities for event fundraising, which is the focus of today's case study example, to communities for membership, volunteering, partners, mission support, advocacy, or a blend of these. And here are just some of the organizations that are currently using Small World Labs community to engage with their supporters and members. And finally, thought leadership is very important to us at Small World Labs. Online community, online collaboration, social engagement is still a developing area with a constantly emerging set of best practices. And we're big believers in taking a scientific A/B test, learn, continuous improvement approach, and then sharing what we learn so that our clients and other organizations can benefit from it. And based on this position as an industry thought leader, we've been invited to speak at a number of industry conferences, some of which you can see up on the screen here. And with that, I'll hand the reins for the majority of the rest of this presentation over to Joe Prosperi, the Digital Product Management Lead for Relay for Life at American Cancer Society. Thanks for joining us today, Joe, and thanks for sharing what American Cancer Society has been achieving with Relay Nation.
Great. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate the opportunity to present today. Hi, welcome everybody. Again, my name is Joe Prosperi, and I'm the digital product lead for Relay for Life at the American Cancer Society. And I'm going to take the next, 25 or 30 minutes and walk you guys through the Relay Nation, which is the main platform that we have on the Small World Labs community platform. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of background on the Relay Nation and kind of what it is, what it spurred from, and what were some of the early pieces that pushed us towards creating this community. Prior to having the Relay Nation, we were an organization that had 12 or 13 different divisions of the American Cancer Society across the country. Each one had its own set of leadership teams, leadership volunteers, its own strategies, its own implementation of some things, and that made it very difficult for us as an organization to adequately roll out new resources, crowdsource things in an appropriate way, and kind of keep tabs on what was needed from our volunteer and staff base and how well what we were producing was performing for those volunteers and staff across the country. We had 13 different divisions. Each one had its own, Convio page builder page or WordPress blog or a variety of different platforms where they were creating their own resources, sometimes, 13 different ways with just minor variations, and it was easily getting out of control and difficult for volunteers to manage and for us to support across the entire country in terms of resources. So that's really what led to us creating the Relay Nation, is having that one main source, that one main house for a lot of the beginnings of our social interactions with our volunteers, our inspiration, our crowdsourcing, and our information sharing with the humongous volunteer base that we have as an organization. Obviously our Relay for Life events are one-day events, but there are ample opportunities 364 days of the year to work with those volunteers, work with those key stakeholders, and increase their engagement. We a lot of times work with kind of episodic volunteers who move from one event to another. They've got kids and soccer practice and all sorts of things these days. So the more that we can be doing as an organization to keep them engaged, even at just a minimal level throughout kind of the Relay off-season, it does pay dividends for us in the end in terms of dollars raised and engagement from those volunteers. So the Relay Nation actually is a platform that sits and is integrated in with a majority of our other Relay for Life digital platforms, whether it be our nationwide relayforlife.org homepage that is kind of the landing page for our event and our organization, as well as our team raiser pages through Convio and Blackbaud that we utilize for individual event fundraising and communication. So it is tied into those experiences automatically. It does use an integrated login between all of those platforms. So regardless of where you log in, whether it be starting on a team raiser page, starting on our nationwide relayforlife.org site, or starting in the Relay Nation, it's the same login and password, and it seamlessly moves you between the platforms automatically in that session. So you don't have to log in when crossing platforms at all. Seamlessly works together, which has been a huge win for us organizationally, because we have, again, that volunteer base that may or may not have a strong technology sense. So the less friction we put in front of them, the more likely they are to utilize the pieces that we're putting at their disposal. So again, you can just kind of see here, it is a seamless setup here where you can easily jump between the Relay Nation, your event and participant pages in your team raiser, and the main Relay for Life website. So the main reason for putting together the Relay Nation and working with Small World Labs was to help us with a number of the common event fundraising challenges that we probably all see in the industry. And we're going to run through a couple of them real quick here just to get an idea of what challenges we were looking to overcome by creating the Relay Nation. The first is building a year-round engagement with volunteers, fundraisers, and event participants. Again, this day and age, people don't volunteer year-round as often as they used to. They are involved in more things, more activities, and they're involved in different ways too. So making sure that we can do everything in our power as an organization to keep those volunteers engaged year-round, even at the most minimal levels of what are we doing with the dollars that we've raised, how are other people participating in Relay at this time. That allows us to keep that in the back of their mind, so when it is time to fully engage in Relay for the season, we're not starting fresh. They've been kind of kept on the hook a little bit throughout the year. Second is to provide a voice to team captains, event committees, and all supporters. That's really important for us at the American Cancer Society because Relay for Life does have over 5,200 different events across the country, all the way from Guam to Puerto Rico and then 20 countries around the world. We have a very, very broad volunteer base. And making sure that each one of those volunteers who have tremendous value to our organization, making sure each person has a voice and they feel that that voice is being heard is a key strategy for us at the American Cancer Society. Obviously when participants feel more engaged, when they feel like they can speak or share and that something is done with their voice, they feel more vested in what they're working on. How do we give effective training and onboarding to fully empower new supporters? Again, a huge thing for us given the number of volunteers that we have. You know, there are over 2.2 million relayers participating this year, and that's just the participants that have signed up for the event. That's not people that are just coming to the event overall, donors to the event. So there's a large number of people out there that need to be trained and onboarded into what the American Cancer Society does, what a Relay for Life event is, how to get involved, and what are the expectations at a Relay for Life event. How do we ensure our resources are helpful and we get the most out of them? You know, this goes back to my earlier story about having 13 different divisions, each one with a different set of resources at their volunteers' disposal. How do we ensure that all of our resources that we are sharing with those volunteers are meeting their need? How are we hearing that voice back from them saying, yes, this is the kind of inspiration I need, or, you know, this doesn't really do it for me. I need a different method. I need a new tool. I need something different in order to get me inspired to raise money and engage with your organization. How do we encourage taking the next step for event participants to become fundraisers? Again, we have lots of people out there that just come to a Relay event, or they see something on Facebook or something pops into their news feed. You know, there needs to be a place for all of those folks to dive a little more into what the Relay for Life experience is. What does the experience look like for a normal person out there that's participating? Where are some photos? Where are some videos? Where are some stories? Where are their concerns about the organization? You know, all of those things are pieces that somebody, when they're looking to get more involved in an organization, what they're looking for, and that's what Relay Nation hopefully does for us. How do they promote sharing of best practices across isolated events and teams? You know, again, we have 5,200 Relay for Life events. We have thousands upon thousands of Relay for Life teams and participants out there across all corners of the country. So making sure that our best practices reach each of those people. Again, that's why it's important that the Relay Nation for us tie into our overall digital platform, our nationwide relayforlife.org site, as well as our individual Team Raiser pages. So regardless of what event you participate in, whether it be in Key West, Florida, or Tacoma, Washington, whatever corner of the country, you're going to be able to have access to the same best practices that all Relay for Life events are looking at and promoting and editing and sharing. How do we help team captains source more team members or form virtual teams for those organizations that do virtual teams? You know, our team captains have such a tremendous dollar amount attached to their engagement. They themselves may not be our top individual fundraisers. They may only raise a couple $100 when they've got team members that raise thousands. But they are the gatekeeper to that team. Each one of those team captains represents anywhere from 8 to sometimes 100 team members that all have a voice, all have a story to share, all have a need to be engaged in our organization. And those team captains are such a vital piece to that, that their value just skyrockets when you take that into consideration. How do we get fundraisers to share their involvement more? Giving them platforms on which to shout from the rooftops the things that they are proud of doing. You know, we have people that raise so much money for the American Cancer Society through Relay for Life, and it's all done through $20 gifts, $40 bake sales, $80 car washes that teams are doing. You know, we really want our participants to understand that in the great grand scheme of us raising $300 and some odd million this year through Relay, that their $50 gift or their $100 team fundraisers make a difference in that fight, and that they are fighting right alongside everybody else. How do we match new volunteers with available opportunities based on needs and skills? This again goes back to the number of events that we have as an organization. There are a large breadth of volunteer opportunities out there, from just participating in an event to team captains, to event leadership and committee, to staff roles that we're always looking to hire, to division leadership volunteers, nationwide leadership volunteers, and making sure that those that are engaged with us as an organization have a clear volunteer path so they know what opportunities are there, how they can get more involved if they're looking to get more involved. You know, probably one of the biggest barriers to people not getting more involved with us is that we've never asked. So making sure that those asks are there and that those new volunteers are shepherded in the right direction in their engagement. And then lastly here, how do we understand our supporters more so we can serve them better? You know, what pieces can we be getting back from our participants? How can we use that information on how they're engaging with us as an organization to craft our messages better? How do we segment better? How do we know, based upon what they're doing socially or resource-wise or discussion-wise in the Relay Nation, how can we turn that into usable information that we can then use to serve our constituents better? So you can kind of see there's a lot of different challenges that, you know, we all have as organizations. You probably can pick out 3 or 4 on this list that have really stuck with you, but they're really questions that are very overarching that we all have. And we're going to really dive into each one now and show you some of the pieces that we have set up in the Relay Nation that address those specific fundraising challenges. So the first one was, how do we build year-round engagement with volunteers, fundraisers, and event participants? Obviously, we've all seen the data out there. This on the screen is from the 2013 Blackbaud peer-to-peer benchmark report. But we all recognize the value of a returning participant or a returning donor. People that make that extra step to go beyond just a one-time gift or a one-time involvement, their value obviously raises a lot. As you can see here, it's highlighted just how much that means. So how do you build that engagement? How do you build those loyal supporters from being just a one-time supporter to being a loyal supporter? So that's where Relay Nation stepped in for us. It really gave us a lot of different ways and a lot of different methods to reach out and engage those participants year-round. So things like discussion boards, resource sharing, photos, videos, just general networking and collaboration groups. And that collaboration groups is one that's really important for us, especially for our leadership volunteers. We have a variety of leadership teams, whether it be division volunteer leadership or specific work groups that work on a nationwide level on, large planning meetings or, mega events across the country. And collaboration groups allows us to have a really great workspace for them to do a lot of their collaborating. I mean, it's a very good place for them to have those discussions, source all their stuff together, and work as a team within a platform that we can then see what they're doing, assist them along the way, and provide proper guidance in their engagement with those groups. There's 175 different engagement actions that can be tracked through the platform. All sorts of things like when people join a group, when they ask a question, inviting friends, sharing content. And this goes into something we'll talk a little bit about later about how we can track all of these interactions and engagements with our participants and then use that to provide even better engagement moving forward with our relayers. So how do we provide a voice to team captains, event committees, and all supporters? Obviously, asking questions is a big way. People, when you're working with an event the size of Relay for Life, they want to get an answer and ask a question and get an answer fairly quickly. They may not know the phone number of who to reach out to. They may not feel comfortable calling the American Cancer Society's office in their town. So they're looking to go out on the internet somewhere and just simply pose that question. You know, we all do that. Whenever we have a question, the first thing we do is we Google it, So why not have a place for them to come that is obviously the main landing place for volunteers for Relay for Life and pose that question to them? So you can see an example on the screen of a person that asked if there was a way, once they signed up their brand new team for Relay, they still don't know what their team name is going to be, and they wanted to make sure that they could change it at a later date. And you can see actually on the left side, not only did people jump on within the first day and answer that question for them, letting them know, of course, you can change your team name, But people also jumped in with words of encouragement, wishing them good luck, offering up mentoring if they need it. It was kind of a groundswell of support when a person asked that question. And this is a brand new constituent, and what a great engagement for them to see that by asking a simple question, there are 10 to 12 other relayers out there that are just willing to jump in and help them. That also helps us as an organization because it takes some of that stress off of our staff and leadership volunteers, because this community self-moderates itself for the most part. That's a question that before we had Relay Nation, they would have had to seek out a staff person or seek out the event chair, email them, make a phone call to them, and track that information down. But now we can answer that question without any leadership having to get involved in it. It is self-moderating. And obviously things that need to be assisted always will bubble up. But some of those easy things we allow participants to help participants. So it's peer-to-peer fundraising and peer-to-peer coaching, which is really, really beneficial for our organization. People contribute photos, and they get really, really creative with their photos. You can see here somebody shared an example of their reasons to relay. They made a nice little hope ribbon. They showed the pictures there, and really allows people to see, it's okay to talk about your cancer story. It's okay to remember those that we've lost. It's okay to celebrate those that are cancer survivors. And it really kind of builds that culture that we want at the American Cancer Society of survivorship and remembering those that we've lost and fighting back against the disease. They can contribute videos, which is a really great piece for us because it gives an even bigger voice to those participants. They can ask questions, but sometimes those are just words on a page. Sometimes people have a very creative spirit and want to shout from the rooftops their reason for relaying. They want to celebrate the lives that they're helping save, and they put that into video for us. And this is a really great crowdsourcing piece for us because, as you can see, any contributions that are shared in your community are your organization's. So we do use a lot of the stuff that comes in from the Relay Nation. We will then share it back out in the Relay Nation and highlight it. We may use it in collateral materials. We may throw it out on one of our social channels on Facebook and Twitter just to share that out with the Relay world out there as to what's happening and share those experiences. And that gives those participants and those volunteers an even bigger voice and even potential to see that their voice is often heard and shared as well. And sometimes you even get some fun, crazy ones, like somebody who decided to take the Gangnam Style video and incorporate a mission moment in there for us about sun safety and slipping on a shirt, slapping on some sunscreen, slapping on a hat, and wrapping on some sunglasses, because that's how we do it Relay style. I always love that one. It's one of the more creative ones that has come in amongst some that are often pretty bad, but a lot of really good ones too. So how do we give effective training and onboarding to fully empower new supporters? So obviously we do have a resource library in the Relay Nation. It is a place where everything that we do nationwide, any staff create, any volunteers create, anything that we decide needs to be a priority for our organization, we put it in the resource library. And it's a very easy place to navigate and find what you're looking for. Obviously, team development resources we host there as well. That resource library is a lot of event-focused things for committees to use for putting on a Relay for Life event. But we did want to spend some time focusing on our teams because, again, our teams are our bread and butter when it comes to fundraising. If we didn't have teams, we wouldn't have a Relay event. So having some dedicated discussion boards, dedicated resource libraries around team development and turning those teams into well-organized machines that are going to raise us a lot of money, spread a lot of messaging for us, and really engage with us a lot. And then lastly, fundraising ideas. That's the other big piece. You have to fill those teams with team members. So giving each of those team members the tools to not only fundraise individually, but fundraise as a team. Show them what the best practices are. Show them examples of what other teams are doing so that it becomes a less scary experience. Nobody likes to ask for money, but a lot of our volunteers have the drive and the desire and the story and the reason to ask for that money. We just need to give them the examples and show them how to do it and show them how others are succeeding in it, and they themselves will be successful. Michael's going to share here just another example for you real quick.
Yep, great. Thanks, Joe. So there's also a lot more that you can do as it relates to onboarding and training in an online community. So here I'll use an example with from Caring Bridge's Amplifier Hub community. So this is Caring Bridge's community for their top supporters and advocates. And as a part of the Caring Bridge Online community welcome and onboarding process, new members are routed through a series of training tutorials using some personalization features. And so step one is an explanation of what the program is about and what it means to be an amplifier. And this is followed up by some questions about the training video, and if the member answers correctly, then the community's personalization feature kicks in, and they're presented with step 2 in the training and onboarding process, then step 3, then step 4, and then step 5, and so on through the remainder of the onboarding process. And if they abandon it at any point, go somewhere else, log in, back in, or come in the subsequent day, the personalization remembers where they are, and so we can continue them through that process. The Caring Bridge community also makes use of badges and gamification to not only make sure that members understand how the organization wants them to help, but also to do it in a way that's fun and recognizes them for their achievements. So each one is unique to each organization. So here you can see some of the engagement areas, which include sharing Caring Bridge out to each person's social network, starting a Caring Bridge site, hosting a fundraiser, speaking about the organization, and volunteering for the organization. And as the user completes these actions, they unlock recognition badges, which are displayed in the community, displayed as a part of their profile, and also correlate to milestone appreciation prizes that Caring Bridge sends to its top supporters to further that appreciation and that recognition and build that loyalty.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. I know at the American Cancer Society, this is an area that we're looking to dive into sometime in the future. We're excited about the idea for that. I mean, everybody now is on Foursquare, or they're on other social platforms that kind of gamify the experience, and there's a tremendous opportunity there to incorporate that for us into Relay for Life. So we are looking into that, but this is a great example from Caring Bridge. So next up is, how do we ensure our resources are helpful and we get the most out of them? So obviously we want our resources to be discoverable, and there's a couple different ways for viewers to find the resources. There's obviously just a simple resource section within the Relay Nation where people can just kind of browse the categories. Sometimes people just want to go out there and look for fundraising ideas, and they just want to see what's there. They want to go look through just the committee agendas or the sample ceremony scripts just to inspire them on what they need to do and kind of get their creative juices flowing. Sometimes they have a very specific thing they're looking for, and we obviously have a search feature to accommodate that. Sometimes they know they need a luminary, a ceremony script, and they can go and they can search for keywords and source just specifically the resources that they need. Some may need just a car wash, Relay for Life, press release, something like that, and they can go in there and search and find that instead of having to navigate through. So it kind of meets both of those needs. And they can also then just search strictly on topic. So whether it be something for team captains, survivorship, event committees, how to make the ask and make a donation, there's just kind of some various topics that they can dive down to, not to see just the resources, but also any discussions around those resources. We also allow for crowdsourced resources, which is a really great piece, which again lends back to having a solid voice for our volunteers and constituents. So we give them the ability to upload their own resources. Because we have so many volunteers out there, there are, again, 2.2 million relayers, a lot of them will create their own toolkits or create their own promo signs for fundraisers they're doing. I mean, many times a week people go on there and say, hey, we're doing a bowling fundraiser. Does anybody have a really great press release or a really great poster they've created for a bowling fundraiser in their town? And people will upload what they have done, and people will share, and kind of best practices will emerge from that. So you can see even within discussions, people can mention specific topics. So an example on the screen here is that somebody was talking about and asking questions in a discussion board about the concept of spirit bucks at a relay. The way that we recognize our most spirited relayers by giving them these spirit bucks for participating in activities and doing very spirited things. So they asked some very specific questions about Spirit Bucks programs and what other events do. And because we are very grassroots, other ideas came up within that topic, and you can see two other examples here that were uploaded as additional Spirit Buck ideas or lap trackers for walking the track at a relay. So again, it goes back to a lot of peer-to-peer coaching, and the relayers are supporting each other in what they need to be doing. And you can see here also, you can bookmark specific pieces that you like. So if you are looking at discussions and you like these resources, but you don't have time right now to sit down and print them off or save them, you can bookmark certain things and come back to them later. You know, say your event is in June and it's, you know, December, and you know that your team's not really going to start fundraising until March or April, but you happen to be, you know, browsing the Relay Nation and you find something you want to remember, but you can bookmark it and come back to it later, and it saves that information for you, so it's available when you need it. And one of the last things that I really love as somebody that does a lot of resource building for our organization is that the Relay Nation allows the resources to be engageable. So an example here is the Team Captain Toolkit and Team Fundraising Guide. Obviously, we posted it online, and there were some really interesting questions about that guide and some good feedback from our volunteers. You know, there were specific people that had a little trouble opening the file. People answered back saying, you know, I had to do it a different way, and then we were able to, as the administrators come in, and kind of cap off the conversation and make sure that anybody that saw it knew the appropriate way to get that toolkit and that we were listening to their feedback. And that's one key that we always take away is as long as we show people that we're listening to that feedback will continue to come in. If we stop showing that we're listening, people will stop talking to us, and that obviously goes against the idea of increasing engagement. So the more that we talk back, the more engagement we get from those participants. What I also love about engageable resources is that people can rate the resources. There is a little 5-star rating system. So if we upload a bunch of toolkits and a lot of our volunteers think that the toolkit we uploaded just really isn't meeting their needs, they can give it 5-star, 4-star, 3-star ratings, and that allows our top resources to kind of rise to the top, obviously, and allow us to know what are being used most often, what are people really liking, and so we can build more of that type of resource, and then what resources aren't working for our volunteers. What do we need to maybe go back to the drawing board on and rethink our approach on coaching and training and resourcing to that specific topic. Next is, how do we encourage taking the next step for event participants to become fundraisers? A lot of that, again, goes back to that peer-to-peer coaching piece that the Relay Nation does provide. Here's an example of somebody who is a cancer survivor and has done the survivor lap at a relay for a very long time, but decided that this year he was going to jump in and start a relay team. But he's having trouble coming up with fundraisers and is asking for some help. He got 30 responses to that. And what's really cool about this is he got the answer that he needed and got surrounded by support. You know, there was a groundswell of people congratulating him on his survivorship, telling him how excited they were for him to be starting a team, and then just literally lobbying resources at him. And here's some ideas. So he had an initial question and was given a plethora of ways to handle the fundraising for his team. And what's awesome about this is that it's an interaction for him, but it's also 30 additional interactions with the people that are answering their questions. And they take pride out of being able to help and shepherd in somebody else into the Relay for Life movement. So by one person asking a question in the Relay Nation, we gathered 30 interactions, and we're able to track those interactions and build that interaction and engagement based upon one person having a fairly simple question on, I'm having trouble with fundraisers, can someone help me? So and that I think really speaks to the power of having this community for us. Similarly, somebody had a question about how can I motivate my team? A very common problem amongst Relay for Life teams is how do I get them motivated, especially for our veteran teams, our returning teams, who, as we talked before, have such a tremendous value to us. And this person also got 18 responses. Again, one person asking a very simple question about how to motivate my team, they got surrounded by a groundswell of support from other Relay for Life participants, creating so many more interactions with us as an organization. And that is just so beneficial, and there's not really a value to it. So how do we promote sharing of best practices across isolated teams and events? Again, just another quick example of somebody saying, I need fundraising ideas. You ask that really simple question, and this person got 101 ideas and comments. Again, one simple question on I need fundraising ideas and 101 interactions from participants that engaged with us and engaged in our organization based upon one person asking that question. And so you know when you're posting something in the Relay Nation that you're posting it to the heart of Relay, to our relayers and to our volunteers. And that's one of the benefits of doing it. It's not going out there on Facebook for all of your friends that are not Relay participants to see, but it's going here to a group of volunteers and an audience of about 30,000 people that are tied to our event, that are passionate about our event, and that are here to help out and learn more about Relay. And that's, again, the big benefit. You can see here also just some examples. There, people posted files and documents. Again, it goes back to that crowdsourcing. And these all show up once they upload them into a discussion. They all show up in the resource library. They're all searchable. And they all just kind of become a part of this big resource library and this big almost dumping ground for all of our resources to serve as a launching point to volunteers, to social media, to our field staff. And it's kind of a nice content factory for us. You can see people showing how to help the day of the event. People will often upload photos of cool things they're doing at their Relay event. This is just one example of somebody who put together a really nice, hand-drawn, wonderfully drawn picture of a mission message around skin cancer and skin cancer prevention and awareness. And this is something that just by sharing it, you can see it had 46 views. That's 46 people that saw this as an idea and may replicate this really great idea at their local Relay event. We can also take this and share it with our mission team and staff and say, here's an example. Maybe this is something that we can mass produce for Relay events if it's a need. If we have lots of people sharing it or lots of people commenting on it, maybe we can make a one-page poster to hang up at registration temps at Relay if this is a mission message that people seem to really engage with. So it gives us lots of insight into what people want to do at their event and what their needs are. Same thing with kind of what has become a classic Relay for Life thing, which is spelling out hope in the bleachers with Luminaria bags. This is just one example that shows where they put the bags, and a lot of people will use this and replicate it at their event. That's how Relay for Life really grew. It's a grassroots movement that started with one guy walking the track for 24 hours in Tacoma, Washington in 1985. And from there, it just grew. And a lot of the pieces that are a part of Relay for Life grew because an event started at an event, or events started doing that practice, and it just grew to other events across the country and eventually became a standard. Like our Luminaria ceremony. The Luminaria ceremony was not a part of the first couple years of Relay for Life, but there was actually a story, one of the first relays in New Mexico, their power went out, and in order to continue the event throughout the night, they lit white Luminaria bags and put them around the track to illuminate the track to allow people to continue walking all night. And that's what started our tradition of having a Luminaria ceremony at Relay, and it has since grown into a national standard for all Relay events to have. Well, having the Relay Nation allows that kind of stuff to happen at a faster rate. Seeing what events are doing, letting them share out there that may turn into what one of the next standards of Relay is, or what one of the next inspirational ceremonies might be. And that's a really cool thing for us. So how do we help team captains get more team members for virtual teams? Again, just like many of the other examples before, people will post that question out there. At this point, I'm kind of thinking that I'm kind of rethinking what I've gotten myself into, is what this person is saying. She's a team captain, and so far she's only had 2 other people on her team. And she posted that in the Relay Nation in one of the team captain discussion boards, and got encouragement from quite a few other people, 5 or 6 other team captains that jumped up and said, hey, here are some things that worked for my team when I first started. Again, it's that groundswell of support to help onboard new relayers into the program, but also give a voice to those veteran relayers that have put so much time into our event. All right. I think Michael's going to share a little bit about some other opportunities as well.
Yeah, so This is new. We recently released a new capability into our platform that enables event and team pages that may be managed on a separate platform to be automatically pulled into the online community. So Relay Out Life isn't doing this yet, but the platform that we did this with is supported by there, so we'll likely be doing it in the future. And what it enables you to do is, so here we're looking at an example of an event that was auto-created in the community, so using those two systems tied together. And within the community environment, all members can see the event, start a new team, or see existing teams. And team pages, so if there's team-based fundraising as a part of this, are also auto-generated in the community. So here I see an existing team. Team members are pulled in automatically, along with links to their community profiles, making them a bit more engageable across teams. Community members can join the team, which provides a new source for team members. And this helps, because if, for example, I was on a team last year, my team captain decided not to do it again this year. I'm not quite ready to step up to be a team captain yet, but I want to participate. I can find new teams. I can even talk to the team members first and join via the online community. And even if I don't want to join, I can also support the existing teams that are out here, being able to donate now also within the online community itself.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So the next question to talk about is how do we get fundraisers to share their involvement more? I'm going to turn it back over to Michael to give us a really cool example. Great.
Yeah, so in this example here, we're looking at sharing specifically via social sharing. The example organization that we have is Greenlight. So Greenlight is a small nonprofit organization based in Central Texas, and they provide a community called the 501 Community, which is a community for their members and supporters. So Greenlight is a nonprofit consulting firm that provides services to a number of nonprofits out there around capacity building. And here we're looking at one of their community pages, and you see the familiar social sharing button. And if anybody clicks it, it shares the page to their preferred social network, basic stuff that we're all already doing. However, here's where it gets interesting, because the community platform that Greenlight is based on has integrated social sharing. The share that was just made not only shares out externally to Facebook or Twitter or Google+, etc., but also into the community's central activity stream. And so now that page and that content is brought to the attention of other top supporters and members, as well as reminding people of that concept of, oh, I could share this or other things too. Because some people start to become blind to the share capability because it's so ever-present. And this process, given that we have tracked social sharing, so our social sharing is integrated with our actions and points, Greenlight can do things like provide leaderboards, which displays top social sharing, which further introduces the concept of recognition and competition. And all of that leads to more social shares and more exposure and more awareness for the organization on third-party social networks. We've found that on average this integrated community-driven social sharing increases social shares by users by 115%. So more than doubling the rate at which content is being shared by end users out to their own personal networks.
Awesome. And I know this is actually a thing with the American Cancer Society we're actually implementing right now at the moment, is this social sharing piece, because we feel like there's such a wealth of knowledge and information on our Relay Nation site that we want to make sure that we give our participants and even ourselves the ability to throw that out into other social channels to meet people where they are. They may not come to the Relay Nation on a regular basis, but if we can throw it out in front of them where they are, they literally will stumble upon it, and they may use that resource or be inspired by what we've shared, and some of them will even then come back to the Relay Nation and build that audience for us as well. So we're really excited to implement this for Relay for Life in the next really month or two. We're working on it right now. So next up is how do we match new volunteers with available opportunities based on our needs and their skills? So obviously within the Relay Nation, we provide a number of volunteer resources. There is a whole thread about volunteer resources and volunteer opportunities in the Relay Nation that just gives people the ability to see the full career path of a volunteer and kind of pick out where they would like to go in their engagement with us as an organization, and then allow us to meet them where they want to go and kind of walk them there through resources, through sharing, and through any other offline engagement we have as well. And then through collaboration groups is another really great way to empower those top volunteers and then also show those that may not be our top volunteers what other groups are out there, what are they working on, and what other things can you get involved in. So someone who's just simply a cancer survivor may come to the Relay Nation, but if they see a collaboration group about cancer survivors in the state of California, they may reach out and join that group and see some volunteer opportunities or mission opportunities or just speaking opportunities about survivorship strictly in their state or their community, and may get more involved because of that. Now, obviously, our event committees is another great place for that. We have over 600 different groups within the Relay Nation that represent specific planning committees for our Relay for Life events. And again, they use it as a project planning space to get ready for their meetings, get ready for their kickoffs, get ready for the event itself. So obviously, within those collaboration groups, there are specific navigation there. You can have administrators, members, you can invite others. You have your own discussion boards within groups, your own photo systems, your own file cabinets, and all of those things you have the ability to customize that. If you want it to stay private within the group, you can, or if you want it to go in the overall Relay Nation bucket, it will show up in all of the resource searches, all of the photo searches, and all of those pieces we talked earlier about finding what's important to you. You can see here just another quick example of a committee member reaching out via his group to other committee members that do online and asking for some specific website help. It's a very specific leadership role that we have on those that work on Relay online websites, and reached out and got, again, dozens of responses from other online volunteers that in a very technical area where they have relied very heavily on staff involvement in the past, we now have the ability for online volunteers to really support each other because they have a lot of experiences, they've built up that knowledge base themselves, and now they're able to coach each other, which takes a lot of stress off our own division and national resources. All right, back to Michael to talk about Operation Smile.
Yeah, great. So the volunteer management and collaboration options in a community platform are endless. So here we're looking at Operation Smile. Operation Smile is an international nonprofit that delivers cleft lip and cleft palate surgeries to children in developing countries. And to accomplish this, Operation Smile has to attract medical professionals to go on overseas mission trips. And Operation Smile's volunteer recruitment starts with its main website, which you see here, which is integrated with its volunteer community, which is called the Medical Volunteer Action Center. And in the Medical Volunteer Action Center, medical professionals can apply online, so they can apply to become volunteers. And the application process includes a three-step review and approval, so involving staff in the U.S. and staff in local countries around the world. And once a volunteer applicant has been verified, they've provided the appropriate documentation and certification, because this is important stuff here. These aren't people just showing up to lend a hand. These are doctors who are going to perform surgeries, anesthesiologists who are going to assist with those surgeries. So a lot of actual verification happens within their community. And once approved, they gain access to potential and recommended volunteer mission trip opportunities. At that point, they can then apply for a mission trip, and if accepted, they get placed in a collaboration group for that mission trip, along with the other mission trip volunteer participants, which enables communication, preparation, and collaboration amongst the volunteer participants before the mission trip. And then even after the trip, post-trip evaluation forms are handled online as a part of the quality control process. And if a volunteer's participation in the mission was deemed a success, that volunteer is approved to apply for upcoming mission trips. And using this approach, Operation Smile processes over 1,000 volunteer mission trip applications per month, which is a big improvement for them in terms of, one, volunteer experience, and two, staff productivity. Because before having the Medical Volunteer Action Center community, a lot of this was managed via online forms, hard copy forms, email, and Excel spreadsheets. And this was, with smaller labs, they were able to put it all in one place.
That's awesome. I love that example. Thank you, Michael, for sharing. And then lastly, Michael's going to talk about how do we understand our supporters more so we can serve them better.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about Joe's community here. So before the Relay Nation online community, the American Cancer Society had its fundraising platform, which integrates into its CRM or data warehouse. But when they added the Relay Nation online community, they now get additional and more frequently updated profile data, as well as all of that engagement data that we've been talking about. And again, we're not talking about peanuts here. As Joe mentioned before, Relay Nation averages over 20,000 member-to-member interactions per month, and all of that is tracked. And that information syncs with their CRM, giving them more information about each supporter and creating a more comprehensive 360-degree view of the constituent in their CRM, which is used by all of their departments and helps the American Cancer Society make better strategic decisions. And so all of this talk about engagement and collaboration and sharing and these examples, why does it matter? And it goes back to that central concept that we mentioned at the beginning of empowering your engagement pyramid, providing options to be able to acquire more members, acquire more supporters, to engage more deeply, and to move up the engagement pyramid, increasing the engagement score for each supporter and each member. And that increase in engagement, whether measured by specific engagement actions or time spent on site, does what intuitively you think it would do. We found that in general, online community members tend to, post joining the community, contribute 437% more revenue per person, volunteer 228% more, attend events at more than a 50% increased rate, and are more loyal, the retention rate being 49% greater year over year from one year to the next. And this is across all community types. So today, Joe's been gracious enough to walk us through one particular community with the American Cancer Society's Relay Nation, whose target audience is event fundraiser, but these benefits transcend across all community types and all audience types, whether they be focused on members, volunteers, advocates, key specific programs, stakeholders, or even missions. And with that, we will open it up for discussion. And I think I've got from Jeremy that we've had a few discussions coming in, so we'll start to kick that off.
Yeah, as Michael said, we're going to open up the Q&A now, and looks like quite a few questions have come in, and we're getting close to the top of the hour. So if you allow us, we'll probably extend this another 10 to 15 minutes just to get to some of these questions, and there's a lot of interest in what Joe has to offer here. Just as a reminder, if you have a question, just type it into the chat box, and we'll add it to the queue here. And one final thing, as you can see, my contact information is listed here at the bottom. If you'd like more of an in-depth look into the platform that makes all of this possible, just shoot an email to me at jdemers@smallworldlabs.com, and I'll make sure to set that up for you. So that being said, let's get to the first question. This is actually asked by three folks, Christy, Christina, and Aaron. It all kind of revolves around how many staff members support this particular platform, Joe. Are they full-time community managers? More information on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's a
really great how our staff, how are staff at American Cancer Society participating or involved? Dedicated, not dedicated, part of their responsibilities, all of their responsibilities?
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting question. And it's actually something that we're still, because we're only probably a year and a half into the Relay Nation, it's something that we're still constantly growing and building. At the moment, the Relay Nation falls to me as a responsibility. I'm the only staff person that fully kind of owns the platform. But we do have a variety of other staff that take on small pieces, specifically when it comes to things like moderation. We are in the process of setting up some specific collaboration groups that are very high-level groups for us. So we noticed that there was a need for a nationwide group for survivorship chairs or a nationwide group for luminaria chairs, and some of those specific key groups that we know are going to need specific resources on their topic and their role. So we're in the process of creating those, and each one of those groups is going to have a staff person that has a bunch of other job duties, but one of them will be to be the moderator for that group and be the voice of the American Cancer Society within that group. But the key thing to take away from a lot of what I'm showing is that there's not a ton of staff interaction that's needed beyond the initial setup and some moderation, because a lot of those interactions are spurred from volunteer to volunteer. It's that peer-to-peer coaching that takes place. So just having somebody in place that can monitor what's going on, and then Small World Labs has actually helped out a lot with that. They do have some staff that kind of handle any kind of spam that may come in. There's filters there for some of that, and they report back to us. So they also help with the moderation of that community. But just having, it really kind of depends on exactly what you're going to build in your community as to what you need to staff to, because there are some graphical needs that you'll need to get a CorpCom team helping out with. But beyond that initial setup, there's not a very huge staff need to keep the Relay Nation running. Once it gets building up to the size that ours is, which is over 30,000 members, it really is just kind of a machine that runs itself. So just kind of somebody having an eye on it is really all we've ever really needed. But if there is specific strategies or campaigns that we're doing, we do dive back in there and drop those campaigns in various places. And that requires, you know, a staff team that knows how to get in there and utilize it. But there's not a whole lot of day-to-day operations that we handle from a staff perspective.
Fantastic. All right, so this next question came in from a couple different folks, Emily and Ben. But it's around mobile. Does the platform support mobile? And those screenshots are more desktop-based.
Michael, I'll let you kind of jump in if you want.
Yeah, either of us can answer here. Yeah. Yeah. So all the screenshots are from the desktop, but Relay Nation is accessible on a mobile device. We just didn't pull in any screenshots from that. But yeah, if users access from tablet or mobile phone, then they get a mobile optimized version of the platform and of Relay Nation for them. So yeah, it works all devices there.
Great.
And we make sure that from our standpoint at the American Cancer Society and all of our mobile navigation on our mobile optimized pages, it's still included in there as a seamless experience on mobile as well.
Great. So another question from Rebecca. Does the platform integrate with Convio Team Raiser events? I think she heard it with Relay Nation, but just want to make sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Rebecca, that was the examples of when we were talking about where Small World Labs and our integrations with other platforms working together, the use case of the events and the teams and the virtual team formation. That example actually is with TeamRaiser. So that's the application that is in place with.
Perfect. Okay, another question here from Aaron. So since anybody can upload resources, does the resources library get cumbersome? Do ACS staff go through there and clean it out from time to time?
That's a really good question too, and that's one of the nice parts about having the crowdsourced resources be engageable. That ours is set up so that when somebody searches for a document or resource, we allow the ones that have the highest rating to appear at the top of the list. So yes, that does require occasionally maybe going in and removing those ones that have very low ratings or are not being viewed. But it does help to self-moderate itself by people engaging with those resources and rating those resources. They automatically appear near the tops of the list to ensure that people aren't getting lost searching through hundreds of unused resources to find the good ones. They automatically rise to the top for them.
Okay, great. Here's another question from Lisa. A lot of great success here. How do you promote this?
So we promoted it a couple of different ways. We do some cross-promotion with our other social channels, so Facebook and Twitter. We do occasionally have postings on there to drive people if they want to get more engaged and involved, to drive them to the Relay Nation for that engagement. And we are also, hoping that once we utilize the social sharing piece that Michael talked about, that's going to also be a great engagement piece to get people to come back to the Relay Nation. If we use the Relay Nation as kind of our central warehouse for resources and then throw them out into other channels to share them, hopefully that'll get us some return traffic back to promote it. We did do a fairly large rollout with our staff and volunteers. Once we launched the Relay Nation, we did some nationwide calls with staff to walk them through it, what some of the benefits were, how it can benefit them in their role as a local staff having local events. And then we hosted some webinars across the country for volunteers, specifically event leadership volunteers and online volunteers were two of our target audiences. Invited them to some calls to share with them what the opportunity was for us with the Relay Nation. And we also used it as an opportunity to hear their voice, too, on what they wanted to see within the Relay Nation, because we wanted it to meet the needs of our key leadership volunteers and what they were hearing at the field level. So that was a fairly large rollout. We did some presentations about it at some of our volunteer summits across the country. And then again, once the ball started rolling and once you initially made that ask, it kind of organically grows. You kind of have to put in that initial investment of making sure people see it. But then once people start uploading their own resources, having those conversations or discussions, and sharing those discussions and conversations and resources out in other channels, it just kind of churns and keeps adding people. We also, of course, have added it into the main navigation of our nationwide Relay for Life website, as well as the event websites themselves. So there are places within those other digital properties that we have where we drive people to the Relay Nation as that one-stop shop for volunteer resources and engagement.
Okay, great. So another question from Brian. Can you quantify your return in dollar terms, the investment you made in the Small World Labs platform?
And then I think this looks like this one is, what we're looking for is from an ROI type justification of project perspective, what if anything has American Cancer Society seen or is looking to see?
So we're still actually in the process of doing a lot of that, because for the last year and a half we've really focused on building that community before we can really have a large enough base to dive in and see if it is moving the marble. So we are in the process of doing a lot of that analysis right now. Some of the early data is showing that engagement factor with the Relay Nation is leading to an increased engagement factor with the TeamRaiser website. So people that are coming into the Relay Nation more are also sending out more peer-to-peer fundraising emails from Convio, They are raising more money. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but that early data we're looking at is showing some really great interaction there. And there obviously is kind of that soft data of, just having 30,000 people in a community is 30,000 more people engaged with us than we didn't have before. So I think just the size and the continual growth of that slide. I'm going to go back to the slide just to kind of show again, we know that it's making a difference in terms of at least our soft engagement with our volunteers, because we haven't seen a plateau. We constantly, since we launched the Relay Nation at the end of 2012, early 2013, have seen kind of a constant uptick in the number of people that are finding it and engaging in it. We haven't reached that plateau yet. So while it's continuing to grow, we know that there is a need for it, and we know that there's a value to it. Because if there wasn't a value to our volunteers, it's not a quantifiable value, but we know there's a value there because those engagements continue to grow and have kept to grow for the last year and a half. I know that's not a specific concrete ROI for you, but I think the data in terms of just engagement and people joining the community is clearly showing to us that there's a value in it for the cost.
Yeah, and I can add on to that. So we have, in addition to the platform services, we have a team here at Small World Labs called our Community Solutions team that works with some of our clients on an ongoing basis to just make sure that from a whatever it takes perspective, that each project is hitting its goals, whether it's implementing configuration strategies or you name it. And when we're doing that, which we are doing with a Relay Nation, once we get past the 1 year mark, so about a year and a half, so that we've got a full year of data, we go back with them and do an actual ROI impact report. And so as Joe mentioned, we're about to start that process. So they don't have their data available yet, but we did a webinar earlier this year with the American Heart Association and their community that we profiled, which is the Professional Online Network, had been around for 3 years, and that one included hard ROI data numbers from offhand. Their paid member retention went up 10%. Their upgrade rate from one paid level or contribution level to a higher contribution level went up by 73%. And then the revenue generated by their events, their paid conferences, went up 54%. But we'll likely be doing this. Joe's a great speaker, so we'll likely be doing this type of presentation again in the future. And probably the next time around when we've got it, we'll have that data available as well.
Okay, great. So another question that came in from Christina. Do the online resources help decrease the number of support calls that are fielded by the national organization, local chapters, or event managers from participants requiring help in various online activities?
In terms of actual hard data on that, we don't track that, but I can't imagine that it doesn't. I think that it again goes back to the power of that one person asking for a question or for a resource, and there being 15 to 20 people that jump in with resources that they've already created. There's been very few examples that I've seen of somebody posting a question in the Relay Nation or asking for something where there hasn't been at least 3 to 5 answers from other people, either maybe chiming in and saying, hey, I don't have that, but I'd also like to see it, which gives us some insight into where are the holes out there in the resources that are providing. So it's not, I can't quantifiably say that it's cut down strictly on support calls, because a lot of that interaction also for us happens at the field level between field staff and leadership volunteers, and just based upon the structure of ACS, it's tough to track. But just based on, again, on the sheer number of interactions and engagements we have, I can't imagine that it's not.
Okay, great. So a couple more questions here. So how does this interface with Razor's Edge for any online donations? What about events such as fundraising, dinner events, to auctions?
Joe, do you want me to take that one?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. Yeah, so in one of the slides we went over how Small World Labs works, how Small World Labs community works with other platforms. That we have an open API. It's public, web services based. The techie nerdy way to say that is it's RESTful, as well as some of the organizations and platforms that we've already integrated with. So as it relates to Razor's Edge specifically, that product, so that's a product under Blackbaud, we currently, out of the box, integrate with Razor's Edge using the Luminate Online to Razor's Edge bridge. So we've got a productized integration with Luminate Online, and we push data into Luminate Online, and then that data can be pushed using the bridge that Luminate Online and Razor's Edge have together. However, that's just talking about the free push the button and it's out there and available. If there's anything that we need to do that would be specific to going straight from Small World Labs and bypassing Luminate Online, if you're not using that or something else, into Razor's Edge, we'd be happy to talk to you about doing that because our platform is set up to be able to do that.
Great. And the last question here. Sorry if we haven't gotten to your question. It just looks like there's too many to get to with the time that we have, unfortunately. But is everything that we've seen, is it accessible only by logging in, or can visitors see it?
So I'll take that question because it's a really interesting one that we've been tossing around in our organization. For the last year and a half, for us, the Relay Nation has required a login. And obviously, if they register for a Team Raiser event, that login automatically gains them access to the Relay Nation. There's not an additional creating a username and password and things like that. And even with that requirement in place, we still, like I said, have 30,000 users in the community. However, we are in the process of removing that requirement and making a number of the things in the Relay Nation read-only to where a casual viewer that may not have a username and password or may consider that a barrier to browsing the information there, we still want them to be able to go in and at least view all of the resources, the discussions, the documents, but we are still going to require a login if they want to leave their mark in the community. So if they want to upload a resource, participate in a discussion, upload a photo, start a collaboration group, all of those things where it would leave a permanent mark in the community, we do require them to log in for that. And we're in the process of making that change as a part of our swap to 2015 websites launching in September. So that piece also enables the social sharing to work a little bit better because when you can click the social sharing options and share out resources and documents from a more open Relay Nation, it allows viewers on Facebook that are not members of the Relay Nation to view that content a little bit easier instead of being confronted with a login screen. So that was something that we actually right now are in the process of changing to kind of meet that need. There's a big value to still gathering that information and having people log in. And a lot of their interactions we're still going to be able to track because it does still require a login to interact. But to at least view and be inspired, we wanted to make that as an easy experience as possible. So that's a really great question and one that we've had many meetings and tossed around and kind of came down with that conclusion.
Great. We've got some more questions. So thanks everybody. It looks like this is a great topic today. So next question is how does Small World Labs community compare to other possible approaches or other possible platforms? We put up, actually, yeah, Joe, you already have a slide up. If you go back a couple slides, we've got a subset of the feature list there. So we include, so one thing that you'll notice here, so this is kind of the feature measles chart here. You'll notice that there's a lot there. Everything in our platform is designed to be modular, so it can be turned on or off, license or enterprise suite where you get everything, or a la carte, to be able to adjust the platform to the needs of the organization. Needs from a size of organization and needs from what's the type of experience that we want to create. It's got, as you can see here, all of the foundational community and collaboration type capabilities, but also a number of leading edge ones that take community to the next level. Things like action workflow, which is a way to automate doing a rules-based basis. If A happens, then automatically do B when a user does A, which helps build very customizable welcome programs, encouragement programs, personalization type programs to take it from just a kind of cookie cutter to same experience to everybody to one that's really more tailored. Platform also, well, actually you can see it in the screenshot in the background. Behind so the second screenshot there is modular in terms of its setup. So setting it up, managing things ongoing is very drag and drop, point and click, point and type update. So modification capabilities are, you don't have to be a programmer. You can. It's very flexible and nimble in that regard. But given that we have Joe on the line, I mean, Joe, what's your experience been with it?
Well, that's funny you kind of say that you don't need to be a programmer. I'm not a programmer. I am a self-taught data geek is kind of what I refer to myself as, and I'm somebody that has just kind of taught myself in using like the TeamRaiser platform and a variety of other platforms over the last 7 or 8 years with the American Cancer Society. So I can work through it. It makes sense to me. I just had a 1-hour call, and some people from Small World Labs kind of ran me through, but it was very intuitive and allowed some very specific customization for us that we're really excited to dive even more into. And again, even a year and a half into having the Relay Nation, we still are like, oh, we can do this now, or oh, we didn't see that before. Now it's kind of, there's still more on every turn as to what we can customize and provide a better experience for our participants. So I've been obviously incredibly pleased with it, or I would not be talking to you guys today.
Great.
All right. Well, we are 20 past the hour now, and I think that's a good time to close. First off, I just want to thank our co-speaker here, Joe Prosperi. He's a fantastic asset to us, an even better partner, and also thank Michael Wilson for his time today. Thank each of you for joining us. We certainly appreciate it. Just as a reminder, if you would like a demo of the Small World Labs platform, you can email me. My email is right there at the bottom, jdemers@smallworldlabs.com. Thank you for joining, and hope to talk to you again soon. Thanks.